Are you ready to go back to Titanic?
On April 14th, 1912, at 11:40 p.m., the RMS Titanic struck an iceberg during its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City. 2 hours and 40 minutes later, it sank to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Of the more than 2,200 passengers and crew on board, just over 700 survived that night. The wreck remained lost at sea until 1985, when oceanographer Robert Ballard discovered it while on a secret mission for the U.S. Navy. His expedition changed the way we explore the deep, and it changed my life. Bob and I recently met at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library to take a look at their exhibit on Titanic.
This is the story I could never tell.
Bob Ballard is one of the nation's top oceanographers, but of course what he's best known for is discovering the Titanic. And that's an amazing story because it turns out that that was just a cover story for a mission that he was doing for the U.S. Navy at the time. In the 1960s, the U.S. Navy lost 2 nuclear submarines, the Thresher and the Scorpion, under mysterious circumstances. In the 1980s, Dr. Robert Ballard was brought in to explore the wreck sites and find out if the Soviet Union had gotten there first.
My mission was to go out to both the Thresher and the Scorpion and completely document 100% of the wreckage.
As it turns out, Ballard found the missing subs and completed his mission so quickly that he still had 12 days left to search for Titanic.
It was actually mapping the wreckage that told me how to find the Titanic. When the Thresher and the Scorpion imploded, all these pieces came falling down to the ocean floor. And so as it was falling down, the currents carried it for over a mile. It was a comet of debris. So instead of looking for a Titanic, I looked for its debris. When the Carpathia got the distress call, it was down here, headed to the reported position.
Ran into them early.
Ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So I said, what's the air celestial navigation back? 5 miles. So I said, let's go another 5. It has to be to the north.
Yeah, right. So then you just run straight north.
But so then I run east-west lines to intersect, to intersect, but space them 0.9 miles.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it, interspace them at half.
You already knew that at that depth, the debris field would be
Roughly
more than
a mile.
Yeah.
So I cheated a little. I said, let's do 0.9.
That's pretty smart.
And then if I don't get it, I'll just interlace.
Yeah, right.
So we began running lines back and forth, and on the 9th line, hit the debris.
You didn't know it was Titanic stuff until you saw the boiler.
Correct.
Wreckage. Bingo! Yeah!
Somebody ought to go get Bob.
For some reason that night, I just wasn't sleeping. And the knock on the door, this is now at 2 in the morning, and the cook stuck his head in, and he said, the guys think you might, and he didn't even finish the sentence, and I was past him. And I got into the command center, and just as I entered the command center, they went over the boiler. I knew it wasn't any wreck, it was the Titanic. And it was like scoring the winning goal at the buzzer. So our reaction was jubilant, jumping up and down, celebrating. And then someone said, she sinks in 20 minutes. And that innocent comment was devastating, because what were we doing celebrating anything? We were embarrassed that we were dancing on someone's grave. So I just said, stop the ship, I'm going outside. We went out on the fantail and we had a private memorial, and that was it.
Everybody that dives Titanic has their own story of seeing it for the first time. And probably the most frequently asked question to me is, what was it like seeing the wreck for the first time?
I get asked, what was it like?
And I always want to tell them the story they want to hear, which was there she was in, this beautiful, stately ruin coming out of the darkness. That's not what happened.
No. Oh, I remember when this was where we came in. We landed here, and
it's a cliff.
The wall of China. I mean, it's just a wall. And the first thing I recognized was the anti-fouling paint.
Yeah, the red paint.
It was still pink, and I said, too bad they didn't paint the whole ship with that stuff.
And the bilge keel is sitting up on top of the sand.
It was back here. Right there.
Yeah.
And then the pilot, he said, we got to go.
Yeah.
So he dropped his weights, And then we began our ascent, but then these eyes,
Yeah, which is your lights kicking back.
your
in.
lights, all the eyes of the like the people were looking at us.
Did you get
'Cause
spooked?
It was spooky.
Yeah.
Because we were now in free ascent.
Yeah.
There was you couldn't stop. You dropped all your weights.
Yeah.
And it was just all these eyes, and then we cleared it. It was amazing.
That's pretty much what it looked like to me the first time, except we were down here someplace, and we came in on her right about here.
Yeah.
And we had come across this bermed up mud.
Yeah.
He came up, and we just cleared here,
Yeah, right.
and then we wound up sitting up here.
Yeah.
But there's also nothing cooler than coming up on her from the
That was our second
right.
time.
That's the money shot.
And
right?
that's the money shot
Right.
looking up.
We did it for fake in the movie, and it's
never
the
faked.
transition shot where it goes into 1912.
Yeah.
So we come past Old Rose's face, we come to that shot of the stem, the vertical
right.
bow, and then we transition into 1912, and we crane up over it, and we see the whole ship.
Keep it coming. Right, watch your mate there, sir. Come on, get a rope. Back.
You won't find bodies at Titanic. You won't find skeletons. The bones actually dissolve into solution very rapidly at that depth. What anybody who's explored the wreck finds is pairs of shoes.
It takes years for a skeleton to vanish, but the shoes, treated with tannic acid, they won't eat them. So all around the Titanic are the shoes. There's a scene where we were filming and we came across a pair of women's shoes next to a pair of girls' shoes. These were people.
These were people. Those shoes got to the
Those
bottom
double.
on people.
They were in their cabin.
Yeah.
Because the cabin was all around the destruction of it, and there was a hand mirror next to them,
Yeah.
and a comb,
Yeah.
and then a bone comb. So I could imagine her holding the mirror as her mother combed her hair, and then put the bone comb.
Create a
in.
whole story. This is the human element. This is what people touched. It's what they lived with.
Amazing.
It's pretty daunting when you see all the names all at once. Huh?
Exactly. I mean,
How many people?
in this 1,496 people. You know, imagine all of these people out there in the ocean. This is the crowd that was floating at sea.
You know, you get so into the forensics of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
you know, and studying the wreck and the breakup of the wreck and discovering the artifacts and so on. You really lose sight of the human tragedy sometimes. I know that was an epiphany for me when I was there at the wreck the first time. You know, how that hit me. And I'd been studying it for months, you know, but it wasn't at a remove. It wasn't a myth anymore. These were real people.
Everybody had a family somewhere that's probably affected to this day.